Hey everybody, welcome to the first video in this Unlimited Terrain Creator video tutorial series. I'll be going over how to use the program, how to install Blender, how to get the scripts installed as add-ons in Blender, and then how to go about building and making things. So if you're watching this, you've probably backed the Kickstarter, in which case I can't thank you enough. It's been awesome developing this and getting you guys' feedback and advice and suggestions. It's really been a fun project, and I appreciate everyone's support and help, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what people end up making with this and seeing where we take it a couple months from now. So I'll try and make these tutorials pretty brief, but also all-encompassing, so I'm going to try not to waste too much time. So I'm going to jump into how to get things installed first of all. And all you really need to install on your computer is Blender. The scripts get implemented in Blender. So I've got the website pulled up here. You'll just want to go to blender.org. And this is Blender's website. And for those that don't know, Blender is a pretty popular free 3D software program, and it can do a ton. Whereas some 3D programs are more specifically geared towards one thing. Blender's pretty cool in that it can do a little bit of everything and do it pretty well too. So it can do sculpting, modeling, even cool like animation and rendering stuff. But it also has a really cool Python API, so people can add their own scripts and basically build their own programs inside of Blender using Blender's features. So all we're going to do is go to the download section, and the most recent version is 2.9, but this was actually developed in 2.8. Eventually I'd like to get it updated so it works in the most recent version, because there might be some other cool features we could take advantage of with that. But for right now, you're going to want to download the old version, or well, the previous version. So you're going to want to go to previous versions up here, and you can either click on this or go to this download link here, and that'll give you all of Blender's old versions. So Blender is kind of an open source program, so you can always download the older versions, and we're just going to want to go to Blender 2.8, and you'll just want to, or 2.80. I think any 2.8 version should work, but that's what I'm using. So just pick the one that's appropriate for yours. Mine was Windows. Yeah, go ahead and download that and follow the instructions. It's pretty simple. And then once you've done that, you'll want to open up Blender, and we'll get started. So I will go ahead and close this out and open up Blender, and once you've gotten Blender installed and opened up, we will go about installing those scripts. Alright, so here we are inside of Blender. And what you'll see when you first open up Blender is this big 3D space here, what we'll be calling the 3D viewport. And there is a little cube in the middle and a few other objects that you might not know what they are right now. And we probably won't be using them at all, but if you want to take a deeper dive into Blender, this is a camera over here, and this is a light. It's more for animation and rendering stuff, so we're not going to worry about that. And you really don't need to know too much about Blender to make the scripts work. All you really need to do is install it, know how to move around in the scene, and basically click the buttons that the scripts create. But the first thing we'll do is talk about moving around a little bit. So it's pretty straightforward. If you've ever worked with a 3D slicer program or anything like that, this should probably be review pretty much. But just in case it's a little confusing, all you'll need to know is you'll use your mouse wheel in and out to zoom in and out, just like that. And you'll hold down on your mouse wheel and move your mouse to rotate around the scene. And then you'll hit Shift and hold down your mouse wheel and move your mouse to pan back and forth. And that's pretty much all you need to know. So play around with that a little bit. Try zooming and rotating and panning around the scene. If you want to get a little bit more advanced, there are a couple of other options that might be a little useful. If you hold down Control, hold down the mouse wheel, and then move your mouse, you can zoom in a more controlled fashion. I don't ever really use that, but it is an option. And then if you use the numpad numbers, so those are the numbers on the right of your keyboard, not the ones at the top. If you can use those to snap to certain camera positions. So if you hit 1, for example, it'll snap to an orthographic front view. If you hit 3, it'll give you an orthographic side view. And it all looks kind of the same now because there's nothing really in there. But just keep in mind that's what those do. And then if you hit 7 on your numpad, it'll snap to a top view. And if you hit Control before hitting one of those numbers, it will show the reverse. So yeah, that's pretty self-explanatory, and that'll probably be more useful to play around with once we've actually got stuff in here. So let's go about getting the next step done, which is linking the files. All right, I've got to interrupt here. I just noticed my screen recorder was not recording little drop-down menus at the top, so I had to re-record this and cut it in here. Hopefully it should look good this time. What we need to do first is link the files, and so we're going to do that here. We're going to go to Preferences, we'll edit and then Preferences at the top, and we're going to go to File Paths. We're going to go to Scripts up here, click on this little folder, and just find wherever you saved the files I sent out with this program. So yours should look something like this. Go to that directory. I might have a few extra test things in here that you won't have, but all these folders should look the same. It should have this add-ons, actually archives should probably be not in there, but you won't have that. But base train, custom assets, all this stuff will be in yours. So go ahead, find that, click accept, and then that should be all you have to do there. And then to actually go in and install the add-ons, you're going to want to go to this add-ons section, and you're going to click install, and you're going to want to find wherever it is you saved the 2 code or Python files I sent out. So I have it saved here. I've just got this one saved here, and the name might be a little different for you guys. I'm again recording this before I've sent out the final files, so yours will probably have a better name, but I'll be sure to specify those names when I actually send these out. So you're going to want to find both scripts and click install add-on. And so I've already done that, so I'm not going to do that now. But then once you're back in here, you're going to click on all, and you can just search the name. Actually, you should just be able to do that, but Blender has a lot of add-ons that it comes with by default. But you should also just be able to click on user, and those should be the ones you've loaded in. And yeah, you should have 2. And we're going to start with the base creator script, so go ahead and click on whatever that one is named by the time I send that out, and just check that. And I should mention again, only have one enabled at a time. They'll have some functions and parts that might conflict with one another if they're both installed. So if you're gonna switch between them, be sure to disable the other one first and then enable the one you want to use. But for right now, we're just going to check on this one. Click X. And now I will jump back into my original recording and go back to the same 3D viewport and hit N. And when you do that, you should have a couple of new tabs created here. So these first couple of tabs are, they come with Blender, and we probably won't be using those. If you end up taking a deeper dive into Blender, you'll probably learn a little bit more about those. But the ones the scripts creates are this import add-ons tab, this base creator tab, this add assets, dungeon tile, and finalize tab. And so that's where we'll be doing all our work. And so you've pretty much learned all you need to know about Blender. Everything from now on will just be clicking buttons and moving sliders pretty much. So if you can move around and get those scripts installed, then you should be good to go. And I'll give a brief overview of a couple of these right now. So the import add-ons one, this is where you'll actually import the add-ons I've included, the extra themes, and I have it set up that way so when you actually go about placing assets, you don't have to have a giant drop down with everything in it. You can just use what you need. So I'm just going to click on a couple of these and just import a few. And so you just click on the one you want and then click import. So I'll grab a couple other ones here. This second one, this was sort of a test functionality I had included in this. It's basically used to import your own assets, mostly like smaller assets to place around the bases, like little rocks and plants and stuff like that. And it looks like the consensus on the Kickstarter was that people wanted a tutorial about how to actually go in and add your own add-ons. So this is kind of redundant because we're going to be covering how to add your own assets. This was just maybe a more exact, or not more exact, but maybe a more, I guess, general dynamic way of importing things. In case you had something that's not scaled correctly, this will take your file and rescale it to the, match the scale of everything else and try and place it correctly. But you probably won't end up needing this one, because I'll be showing you how to add your own assets the correct way, so they can be used just like all the assets I've included in this this program. But I left it in there in case you want to play around with it. It's there, and you can try and use it and see if you like it. But yeah, that's really all you need to know here. You'll mostly be using this one here, picking out add-ons and clicking import. Then the next one, this is the probably the main tab we'll be starting out with, the base creator tab, and this is where you'll actually place the base terrain you're going to use to create bases or tiles or anything like that. And I should mention, for those of you who have had experience with Blender before, you'll probably know the first step is to click on the cube in the middle and hit delete to get rid of that. It's kind of a little Blender inside joke. There's always a cube in the middle, but no one ever ends up using it, so you usually just delete it. You don't need to do that, though, if you don't want to, because the first thing we're going to do to get everything started is click this Initialize button on the Base Creator tab. And when you do that, things will look a little bit different. We've got this scene here with a base in the middle. And I should mention everything here is a Blender object, so this plane and this scene in the background here, the nice blue little blueprint looking thing, that actually is a Blender object, so you can delete that. Shouldn't really cause any issues, but if you click on that by accident, you may not see anything, but if you accidentally hit delete, that will get rid of that. Maybe you want to do that. I don't know why you would, but just keep that in mind. If something disappears, maybe that's what happened. But if anything ever does disappear or look funny or you get any weird results, just go back and click Initialize, and that'll get rid of everything and bring everything you need back. So you should get back to a point like this. So now that we're here, let's walk through some of the buttons and sliders here and make a couple of bases. So the first slider we've got here is the base size. And so this, as you can imagine, can be used to adjust the size. And you'll notice sometimes things in Blender will get a little bit slow, and this is one example with this slider, because Blender is very cool, but it also has its limitations, so sometimes it gets a little bit tired. And yeah, every time this value changes, Blender is basically recalculating. So it won't really cause any issues, but if you're annoyed by that, you can always just type in the value you want. So if you want to make a 40mm base, you can just type 40 and it'll snap to that. But of course you can take the time to slide it if you want, and you want to watch it scale down in real time. But yeah, that's the size slider. The next one you want to look at is this shape. So this is where you pick the actual shapes. You've got the circle, you can go with a square, you can go with a hexagon, and for these as well, you obviously can resize them. You can go with an octagon, with an oval, and yeah, if there's anything anyone else needs, let me know. I can add some more shapes, but right now that's what's in there, and you can resize those. I'll just stick with a nice 25mm circle for now. And then the only other one is this dungeon tile one, and this one's a little bit different. So if you actually want to create a tile with walls and doors and that sort of stuff, don't just click on square and size it up to 50mm. Click on this one. It actually, the code actually treats it differently and lets you place doors and all that stuff on there. So keep that in mind. And if you select this one, the size scaler won't do anything. It'll just default to 50mm. So keep that in mind. But for right now, we're just going to use a circle. I'll stick this back to 25. And the next little drop down is the actual style of the base. You can go with nothing, or basically like a little topper like this. You can go with straight, which is just a little straight cylinder down. You can go with a little sloped base, looks kind of like that. You can go with yeah, like something curved like this. So yeah, that's pretty much the styles available. I think they're pretty cool, but if you guys have any other ideas or think they should look a little bit nicer, let me know, and I can update those. But yeah, that's pretty much what they look like right now. I like these sloped ones, so I'll leave it as that. And then you have this option to add a little lip on the edge. That's just to make it a little bit easier to remove when you've 3D printed it. It's not super noticeable. It's pretty small because I didn't want it to be too noticeable. So yeah, test it out, see if that helps. And let me know if that needs to be bigger or smaller, or if it's not useful at all. Keep sending me feedback. But that's that. I'll leave that on for now. And you can also add a little magnet hole here. It might be kind of hard to see, but there's the magnet hole, and you can adjust the size of that as well. So you can make that a really, really tiny one if you have a teeny tiny magnet, or you can make it pretty big. And that is that pretty much. And now we're going to get to the actual fun part, which is actually adding a base terrain. So the first one you can pick, well, the first drop down here is the theme. And most of these first ones are just kind of the, I won't say placeholders, but kind of the first textures I made when I first started testing this out and playing around with the idea of this program. So they may not all be as cool as some of the ones in the add-ons that we imported in the beginning. So as you'll notice, the ones on the bottom are the add-on ones that we imported. And just to show what this does, I'll import another one. I'll import this sci-fi gothic. And if you'll notice now, we look down there, that's there at the bottom. So all the ones you import as add-ons will be down there at the bottom. But these ones at the beginning they still work, and they're still pretty good, and you might like quite a few of them. So play around with them. So that'll be the theme you choose. Then there's a base. This is like the specific one you can choose. So you can click on a random selection if you want to just pick a random one, or you can pick a specific base texture. And the names don't really tell you too much right now. They might not be that distinguishable. So you might just need to click on, play around with a few and see which ones you like. For now, it's kind of hard to add things like, cool pictures where you can get a little preview of what it'll look like beforehand. So, just click them, add a few, and see what you like. And so I think I'll stick with this one for now, at least while we cover the next few. And then, so the next ones, the next button, this change terrain, that's pretty much used to just randomize that specific texture. So you can click that, and it'll just change the texture a little bit to give you, as many different results of the same theme as you want. And then if you don't like the height, you can adjust that with this a little bit as well. And I might add one more of these that works a little bit better before I share the final code. But yeah, for now, that's pretty much what it looks like. You can just scale that up or down a little bit. And let's see, I might add something a little different here. Let's see, maybe I'll add this one of these Crusades bases. See how this one looks. And yeah, some of these might look a little bit better as actual tiles with walls and stuff like that than bases, and some might be the other way. Because I tried to add as much as I could so that people had enough of what they need no matter what they wanted to make. So you'll have to play around and see which ones you like, see which ones you prefer for bases or tiles and all that good stuff. So yeah, but there's plenty in there to play around with. So test it out, see what you like. I'll test a few more ones here. Let's see. Actually, yeah, I think I will. One other thing I should mention, every once in a while you might get a weird result where there'll be a little bit of hanging, floating geometry there that gets created when you either add a base or randomize it. I'm working on a function to just delete those in the final step when you export everything. But for right now, just click change terrain again. It should, you might have to try it once or twice, but you'll get something that doesn't have that. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Let's see what else I've got here. Something like this. Yeah, there's a bunch in there, so play around and see what you like. I think that's good. I'm gonna go for a pretty plain one for the next step. Let's see what we got here. I'll go with this some kind of mud. Let's see. It looks okay. I'll scale that down a little bit. Whoops. Something like that. And this might be a good example for what we're gonna do next. So the next thing we're going to do is go to this Add Assets tab. And this is one of the first things I added to this when I first started developing this idea. And I don't know if people are really going to use it that much. But basically it's the part of the script that adds little like rocks and plants and debris around the base to make it look a little more interesting. Honestly, I really couldn't think of that many things, like little things I'd want to add around. I mean, rocks and gems and weapons, those were kind of obvious, so I added those. But, there could be, I don't know, if you guys really like this, let me know, and I'll keep developing this and adding some more little debris you can add around. But for right now, I'll just give a brief demonstration. So I'll pick these just gems, as we're going to add some gems around this base. And if you click this replace existing, that will pretty much get rid of all the existing assets before it places the new ones, in case you place things multiple times. So I'll leave that checked for now. It doesn't really matter at the moment. This next slider is the number of things you're going to place. I'll leave that at around 4. This, you might not be able to read the whole thing, but if you slide this over, you can show the whole word. This algorithm drop down, this is just different ways things get placed. If you want a kind of more in-depth description of how it works, I can walk people through that. But basically there's this quick option which just places things really quickly. And all these use different methods of calculating the height at which an asset gets placed. I will say the quick one obviously is the quickest. So if you've got a really big base or a dungeon tile, just leave it at quick, because what the other ones do, they actually loop through all the geometry in the base and the assets that it places to try and find the best placement, which might take a while if you've got something big or something with a lot of geometry. But if you got something small for a base like this, it shouldn't be a big problem. And these basically just use different methods of calculating where to place things. So it'll take, for a base with a lot of variation like this one, as you can see, there are little dips and valleys and stuff like that. Some of these might do a little bit better of a job. You'll just have to play around and see which ones you like most. So it sort of adjusts the height. And so if I click one like min, this one sort of defaults to the lowest area. So you probably won't have any like weird overhanging elements on these ones. As you can see, most of these are pretty good. But they also might be a little bit more sunken. So if you have something with less variation, maybe you'd want to pick a different one of these. But either way, quick usually works pretty well, but it might take some manual adjusting on something like this with more variation. And as you can see, there's a little bit of an overhang there, which we're going to take care of now down here. And so this little section here lets you pick individual assets. And so yeah, this looks like a good one to fix, because there's a little bit of an overhang there, which probably it'd still probably print, because no matter which one you choose, it'll still snap to a vertex on here. So there won't be something just floating in midair. At least there shouldn't be. But still, that might cause some problems. So you can use these sliders to move the asset around to wherever you want. So you can move in the X and Y locations. And if there is a little bit of overhang like that, let's move it back here, you can move the Z location down a little bit too. So you can do that. You can adjust the rotation, and you can adjust the scale. And let's do that with the others real fast. So play around with these a little bit, get a better feel for how this all works. And maybe we'll add one more. And I'll uncheck this replace existing, so that those gems stay in there. And I'll, I guess, add some rocks. Maybe I'll just add 3. And yeah, so that looks good. But maybe we'll move one of those out of the way so it's not on top of the gem there. So, oops. Yeah, that's pretty much how you do it. You're going to want to rotate it and scale it and move them around until you find something you like. I think that one looks pretty good. And then here's another thing I added. I added this. This is another sort of test feature that I added in there. Sort of started developing, but wasn't really sure how much use people would get out of it. It's basically like the same thing as this, except for sort of a larger, kind of like shrines or interesting things like that you could add. So I've got just a couple in there. So you can add like a neat Egyptian obelisk type of thing. And yeah, again, I wasn't really sure if people would actually use these because, well, I don't know. But if you like that, let me know and I can keep developing that and adding some more. But that's pretty much, it pretty much does a similar thing to adding assets the normal way. So yeah, it just adds a slightly larger, more detailed asset there. And got a couple in there. And yeah, you can just play around and see what you like. And yeah, keep sending me feedback, of course. But yeah, let's say we like this and we want to export this. you will go to the Finalize tab. Oh, and I guess I forgot to mention you can click Remove All Assets to get rid of everything on there. But for right now, we're going to go to this Finalize tab, and we're going to just click Export. Now this Finalize tab has a couple of options here, like the score lines here. This was another sort of test feature that a few people mentioned in the Kickstarter, so I tried getting it added in there, but I was surprised it wasn't one of the more popular pull results. So I just added sort of a basic functionality there, and it gets the job done, but it's certainly not perfect. But yeah, if people need that or need the scoreline stuff to work a little bit better, let me know, and I can develop that by the next release. But you can pretty much set the width and the add the score lines, remove them afterwards. Doesn't work perfectly though, so keep that in mind. It's, if you like it, that's definitely something to save for the future releases. But for right now, we're just going to click export, and that's all you need to do. And once you've done that, everything should snap back to, everything should disappear and go back to the default scene. And when you've done that, it'll get exported to the Terrain Creator Export folder that's included in the files that I sent out with this program. So we'll take a quick look in Cura. So I'm going to close out Blender and take a quick look in Cura so we can take a look at that. All right, so here we are in Cura, and I'm just going to delete what I've got in there. Obviously, I've been playing around with this for a while now, so I've got some stuff already in there. But you'll just go to Open Files, and I don't know if the screen capture is picking this up. It looks like it's not, but basically you'll go to your Terrain Creator Exports folder, and if it's a base, it should say base in the name. If it's a tile, it'll say tile, and if things get exported separately, like with open lock parts, like we'll talk about later, that'll also be in the name. But for right now, ours just says base and then the date and time, and yeah, so that's pretty much what we just built. And let's see, does the size look okay? Yep, just about 25 millimeters. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it for creating a base. So go in and play around with it, test it out, make a few things, and let me know how it goes. And keep sending me feedback on what else you'd like to see, what other features you think will be cool, and if anything breaks or looks weird, definitely let me know, and I will be sure to get it fixed. But that's it for now. That's it for creating bases. So play around with that a little bit, and in the next video we will cover creating a tile with walls and windows and doors and all that fun stuff. So stay tuned for that.